Hey TikTok, Angela Parker, aka Boozy Bible Scholar, coming to you with the question, is critical theory biblical? Is critical theory biblical? As always, I'll have that conversation as I do my eyeshadows. This is Scripture Through Womanist Eyes. My lip of the day is coming from MAC Ritual, and my scent of the day is Bouquet Idol by Zhirjov. So let's get into this conversation. Is critical theory biblical? Is critical theory biblical? Starting with my Pat McGrath Mothership 1 Subliminal palette, I will begin to ponder that question. So this is a slightly different video because I was watching YouTube and the question was asked, is critical theory biblical? And I think there's already problems beginning with just the question. The question assumes that critical theory is one thing. And then in the video, they go on to argue that critical theory is about intersectionality and wokeness. And there's a little bit more to critical theory than that. Critical theories, and I teach the Bible in critical theories because critical theories are more than one thing. And additionally, the video highlights that salvation becomes equivalent to wokeness. And that's very demeaning to Black folks who during the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s had the Green Book that allowed them to travel up and down the highways of 85 and know where they can stop in order to rest. But when they were in the car, they had to be woke because the police officers in certain cities would immediately run them out of their cities after dark. Those are called sundown cities. So just by the right reframing the idea of wokeness into this horrible thing is already demeaning to Black folks. I didn't tell you what I was using. I was using these two colors in the Pat McGrath Subliminal to begin to carve out my contour, but now I'm using the black. And I'm using the black as I'm thinking about sociology and its connection to theology. I would argue that if your sociology is screwed up, your theology will also be screwed up. And there's an old quote from 1915. Theology is the science of man's relation to God. Sociology is the science of man's relationship to his fellow men. And I apologize for the 1950 male language, but that's the entire quote. The idea that the doctrine of God the Father is connected to the doctrine of the brotherhood of man, meaning from an ethical standpoint, our relationship with God is intimately tied with our relationship with our fellow human being. And so theology and sociology are arguably complementary. If you are not right with your fellow person, your fellow human being, you are not right with God. And so when we think about theology and sociology, if your sociology is okay with different people being killed or slaughtered, if your sociology is okay with folks living in squalor and poverty, then I would argue that you have a skewed sociology and a problematic relationship with God. I'm going to go in with this lavender purpley shade, and then I'm going to go in with this duochrome blue purple shade that's always fun to play with. That's why it has a big hole in it. But I would also remind us that history and sociology are connected. If we understand history and the ways that we've sociologically been dividing people and thinking about people, that would also help us begin to think about what transformed society looks like. And that is the end goal of critical theories, transform society. But the third thing I would argue is that folks who ask if critical theory is biblical would believe that the Bible speaks in one univocal way, And I would argue that we have to remember that the biblical text is a compilation of many books written over many different time periods by different authors. So we have to take the Bible in its complete sense of being in different cultural spaces, different political landscapes, and all of that affects how the authors of the Bible actually began to write, because they were situated people in situated time frames and periods. And now let me go back to wokeness and salvation. When folks ask if the Bible or if critical theory is biblical, one of the ways that they begin to argue against its connection to biblical thinking is the idea of salvation. They would say that salvation is being woke. Well, wokeness is not salvation according to critical theory. I would argue that critical theory, again, is all about transforming society. And so this limited view of wokeness to salvation is problematic for those who really don't understand what critical theory is. But let me also expand an idea of salvation. In Greek, the Greek word for salvation is sozo, to be saved, to be healed, to be made whole. So an example would be in Matthew chapter 5, when Jesus says to the hemorrhaging woman, "Go, your faith has made you whole," that the Greek word there is sozo. So go, your faith has saved you. And we don't often think about salvation being connected to wholeness. And I would argue that Jesus in his ministry often made that connection, because we see it in the Bible, that instead of being, go, your faith has made you saved, translators translate it, go, your faith has made you whole. That woman did not declare a statement of faith to Jesus. She actually had physical healing in her body. And that's what transformation is. And so when we begin to look at critical theories and think about what the biblical text says and the various words that are used for salvation, you begin to see that it's much more expansive than getting to heaven after we die. Okay, TikTok, so here is the final look. Again, Pat McGrath, Mothership, Subliminal. Now, I am teaching the Bible and critical theories in the fall 2024. Hair. So if you are a local pastor or even a faraway pastor, we do have ways for you to audit and not be in the state. So again, if you want to audit, feel free to contact me about my Bible and critical theories class. And you'll see that I teach critical theories in such a way that we can use them as lenses to begin to read the Bible as well. So as always, Angela Parker, aka Boozy Bible Scholar, reminding you to be bold, be brave, and be brilliant. Have a great day.